Hi guys, I would like to show you an experiment with Langchain agents. I tried two ways to implement what I have for my video editor, which is using ChatGPT prompts and using the ChatGPT API to break up the video transcript into chapters. So the issue there is that obviously you have to handle these individual steps by yourself, which is not ideal. This is exactly what agents are supposed to be able to do. So I decided to code an AI agent using ChatGPT prompts and using Langchain to chain them together. So my first experiment with this was using this API, the old API of ChatGPT, as it turned out. If I run this, so what this does, let's just look at let's look at the old one first. What this does, it creates a prompt, and then it creates a tool using the prompt and creates an agent, and then it runs the agent. So let's just go through this one by one. Okay, so disable breakpoints. Okay, so we're gonna create the prompt template. We're going to initialize the agent, and we are going to run the agent. Now, one thing I would like to point out is that what I'm trying to do, the mission here for this particular test, is to break up a VTT transcript. VTT is what, if you go to Zoom and you get a transcript of your recording, like, for example, this recording, I will get a VTT file, which is a particular format for video transcripts or for transcripts. I don't know if it's only for video. Anyway, so you get that VTT transcript. What this does, it's supposed to break it up. Now notice the last thing I'm asking for is a JSON array with these fields, and it totally fails to do this. I initially had code that would parse that out, which would consistently blow up because it doesn't know how to do that. ChatGPT can extract and produce JSON files, and in my video editor, this is not what I'm using in my video editor. I have my own prompts, and I'm using a different approach. I wrote these prompts using with ChatGPT itself. So what it suggested just doesn't work for JSON. But let's see, it seems to work for the rest of the stuff reasonably well. In order to actually extract JSON, you have to do what I did for my video editor, which is a little more complicated. I'm actually asking for it to return what it likes to return in the chat version, in the interactive version, to return Markdown with embedded JSON, and then you have to extract that. So that's what I'm doing there. And there are a couple of other things that I'm doing differently, which actually makes my chapters much more realistic. These chapters, well, not very good. It should be able to do this based on this prompt, but it's not doing it. So you're an AI assistant. Analyze this following VTT file content, identifying logical chapters based on the timestamps and text, summarize the content of each chapter, and assign an appropriate title. For VTT content, use this content, return the result as a JSON array with fields, start time, end time, summarize chapter text, and chapter title. It kind of does something. So let's look at that, okay? This is what it returned. All right, so I'm actually really surprised. Now that I'm not trying to parse out the JSON file, it produced a JSON file. Every single time before, it failed. Now it does. It's not consistent though. So like I said in my video tool, I had to be much more explicit to get consistently JSON that's parsable. But this is actually, the structure is good. The only issue is that it's tonal nonsense what chapters it extracted. So again, I'm using a different algorithm for my video editor to because this would not make sense. It should be able to do based on this. ChatGPT wrote this prompt, so ChatGPT thinks about itself it should be able to do this, but it can do it. Because if you look at the original video VTT file content, the transcript content, what do I have? I have three fragments. So this is what the narrator said. So it summarized three fragments into three chapters, which makes no sense. I wanted chapters. I didn't want fragments rewritten. Okay, so they were fine. At least it produced a JSON structure and it did do a summary. I did do a summary. So let's look at the first one. The first one is, welcome to the video. Today we'll cover the basics of cooking pasta. All right, let's see what it did. Covering the basics of cooking pasta. It rewrote the fragment. It's not a chapter summary, really. Okay, so a chapter summary would be something like you give it, and which is what I do in my video editor using my other algorithm that works actually, is that you have like 100 fragments or 50 fragments and summarize it into 5 chapters. That's a chapter summary. That's how you create chapters. This just rewrote the fragments. Okay, so but it noticed that it actually generated a bunch of deprecation errors. So the API I'm using here and these imports here are deprecated. The most most scary of these is that says Langchain agents. So let's just look at this one because this is the one that scared me away from using this old API. Langchain agents will continue to be supported, but it's recommended for new use cases to be built with Langgraph. Langgraph offers a more flexible and full-featured framework for building agents, including support for tool calling, persistence of state, and human-in-the-loop workflows. See Langgraph documentation for details. Refer here for its pre-built React agent. Okay, so this is what I did. So let's look at that second. Let's look at that second approach, which is using the new API. So right underneath this, I re-implemented this. I re-implemented this using Langgraph, which is another Python package you have to import. And then let's see what it does. So I'm going to change the call to Langgraph. So I'm going to comment this in and I'm going to comment this out. Okay, so now let's rerun this. So this is the new API. I'm going to create a gist of this to GitHub so you guys can play with it. Maybe you guys can find it useful as a starting point for your own stuff. Okay, so this is the new API. This is the new API. Again, I gave it the same input data. It goes through it. Yeah, the structure is a little different. So you construct the model differently. You construct, so this is what I had to do. I created an inner function like that, and then this is the problem. So the tool is set up differently, basically, a little bit. And then they have this create agent, which create React agent, which is a new method, a function that you have to use to create this agent. You don't pass in the LLM like the old one, like the old one passed in. If I remember well, you gave it the LLM when you created this. Yeah, you passed in the LLM, right? That's what this is. That's what this is. So here, this is what you do here. So okay, this is the agent. Yeah, so model tools. The tools are set up differently too. They have annotations to create tools in a simple way. So you just annotate your prompts and so on. I'm not doing that here, but they made a lot of improvements. Plus the whole idea of persistent state and putting a human in the loop sounds really good to me, because what you sometimes want to do is from an agent to come back to the human and ask the human to approve something or for additional input. So if you think about what an agent is chain together multiple tasks of, let's say, generative AI, and do it more or less autonomously. So basically, it's a workflow. Now, sometimes you have to come back for additional input. Like, let's say it's implementing a search. You might want to come back to the user for additional heuristics, like, hey, I found too many entries. Let's narrow this or something like that. So I'm assuming that's what that's for. I haven't tried it out, but it sounds very interesting to me. So I'm going to stick with this new API. And so this is the result. So when I run this, it already produced the results. So it's going through the content. The first, let's see what the first content it found was, I just let it go. It seems there was an error processing the VTT content. So it always does this. It has issues with it. I will figure out why, but then it still falls back on a secondary solution, which is interesting and it's really cool. So if I run it again, it seems there's a persistent issue with processing the VTT content. Let me manually extract the information for you. And then it just still produces the result. So this is what it did. Okay, so let's see, compared to the original. Okay, well, it didn't actually summarize. So I'm gonna look at this in more detail because it didn't actually rewrite this at all. So the old API did actually do the rewriting, but it didn't create chapters. I asked it to summarize the content into chapters. So that can be further, the prompt can be further improved to actually get chapters. So you would combine these fragments. The new one failed. I will have to look at why that fails. And when I have an update, I post it here. Because this is I picked this as an example problem. I'd actually have a solution that works for me, like I said, for my video editor. But I'm just using it as a guinea pig example problem of how I could do this with agents, because I manually chain these steps together for my video editor, and it's really cumbersome. I can do it with 3 or 4 steps, but once I have 100 steps using ChatGPT, which eventually I will if I write so many tools using AI, then it's just going to be really complicated. So I'm going to figure out what's going on here. I'm going to post another video about it if I manage to solve the problem with the new API as well. Thank you for listening. You guys have a nice day. Bye-bye.